What's going on, everyone? Today we have the RTX 5080. This is the Gigabyte gaming OC model of the card, and we're going to be taking it through its paces today to see what you can expect from this card on this title. As usual, we're not overclocking anything, and everything is straight out of the box settings. And we have it paired with the AMD 9800X3D CPU and 32 gigabytes of DDR5 memory. If you're new here, your subscription is greatly appreciated. If you're not new here, thanks for coming back. I appreciate it. All right, welcome to the video, everyone. We are on a 5080 today. This is the Gigabyte Gaming OC version, and it's got 16 gigabytes of VRAM. And right now we're currently utilizing about 10.8 of those 16 gigs. So we're looking pretty good. We are at the high preset. We don't have any DLSS enabled, and we don't have any frame gen enabled, and we are at native 4K. So this is about where you can expect the title to run around 60 FPS. That's why I've chosen to start at high with no DLSS. So if you wanted to get this number up a little bit, you of course can jump in here and turn on some DLSS. However, let's see what it looks like with just Ultra, or Epic as they call it, and the following settings. So Epic settings, no ray tracing, no frame gen, no multi-frame gen, at raw 4K, all natural pixels here. You're at 49 FPS. All right, so obviously right here is where we're going to need some DLSS to kind of start getting this thing over the hump and start performing plus 60. Now, I say that with a big grain of salt because you don't necessarily need 60 FPS in this title. I mean, it's a slower paced game, and it doesn't really need to have like the biggest, best, fastest frame rate to enjoy. All right, sorry to cut there. I just needed to make sure that my frame view monitor was on so we can monitor that PCL, especially once we start getting into the frame generation portion of this test. So right here, you, like I was saying earlier, you don't need to have 60 FPS for this to be a nice experience. This feels really good. I'm on a controller. We've got 87 milliseconds of latency there. Little high for mouse and keyboard in my opinion, but on a controller I think you'll be okay. But DLSS honestly works fantastic in this title, as most titles. So let's come down here and turn on the super sampling. Let's use DLSS, of course. This is an NVIDIA card. So quality DLSS, Epic settings, 4K, no frame generation. And that gives you a nice lift into the high 70s, low 80s even. And this is the door over here where the kind of storyline starts. So I'm going to avoid that because I don't want to ruin anything. And to be honest, I just constantly die when I go in there. So there's really no point in going in there for a test. This is a nice open space here. So it should run just as good, if not better, in those more closed off areas later on in the game. All right, so 81, 82 FPS. So right here, we could maybe turn on some ray tracing and see what kind of dip that gives us. So we're at quality DLSS with Epic settings. Quality DLSS looks fantastic. All right, so let's just turn on some ray tracing. Give it a minute. It's going to have to like kind of think about it. All right, there we go. So we're in it now, and that gives us 60 FPS. How nice. All right, so we are at 74 milliseconds of latency, 72, 86. Okay, let's see. That's 86 is the average. I looked at the wrong thing. So we're right here at 60 FPS. Now, at 4K, when you go down to performance, you're still upscaling from a 1080p base resolution, and it still looks extremely good. So taking that in consideration, if you did want to get this up a little bit, not that you need to, because this title runs very, very well, and it doesn't necessarily need to have some enormously huge frame rate to enjoy. We're going to see what balance looks like with this ray tracing turned on, and that's going to give us a nice lift up to about 72 FPS here at 4K, and that gives us a PCL of 62. So now as we go harder and harder on the DLSS, the upscaling, it's going to help our latency out more and more because you're raising that base background frame rate, so you're able to get much more responsive inputs. So if you are on a mouse and keyboard, this might be something that you can look at. Once you get to quality DLSS with ray tracing and Epic settings, really the only reason to go down more and more on your upscaling. So maybe, you know, to go from quality to balance or balance to performance. The only reason you would really want to do that is if the latency was bothering you and you were on like a mouse and keyboard. So that's why I kind of want to show this. I like anything around 50. 50 to 80 is like sweet spot for me, or anything under 50, of course, is even better, but 50 is like perfect. All right, so let's see if we can get it down to 50. If you're on a mouse and keyboard, this is probably where I would maybe play if the latency in the camera was bothering you. This would get you 85 FPS, but the main thing we want to pay attention to is that PCL up there, the post-compute latency. That is after the image has been rendered, the time it takes for your mouse movement to show that rendered frame. So it's after it is rendered. This is the best way we can show it, software-wise at least, and it is pretty accurate. All right, so 52 milliseconds there. Now, if I turn on frame generation, you will see that the PCL actually changes a little bit. All right, so let's turn on frame generation. All right, so this is just regular 2x frame gen. It has multi-frame, but it doesn't tell you what it is. It just says multi-frame. I'm assuming it's 3x. But look at our PCL. It went down to 34. All right, so that actually helped us with our latency is by enabling some frame generation, but that only really happens when you have a nice high background frame rate. So if you did come in here and want to retain quality DLSS, you might be able to get away with it with some frame generation and still have a nice PCL. So our PCL is around 38.5, 38.4 milliseconds. This actually looks pretty good. I mean, this is the setting right here, in my opinion. Do a little bit of frame generation with a quality DLSS with everything completely maxed out. Here at 4K on a 5080, this would be a very, very nice way to play it. It looks fantastic. This game is so freaking scary. I played about 2 hours of it so far, and man, freaky. I mean, you turn the lights off and put yourself some headphones on, it's a pretty good time. All right, so if you did want to see what multi-frame generation did, let's just come over here, see what that does to our PCL. Again, I believe this is 3x frame gen. I don't think it's 4x. But it does make our PCL go back up a hair, about 44, 45 milliseconds. Still really good. Nothing wrong with this at all. 145 FPS. Your VRAM is totally under control. You're right around 11.5 gigs. Temperatures look fine. Usage looks fine. Again, really good card for this title. They're starting to actually become available at MSRP. This one is not an MSRP version, but you can kind of expect similar performance from all these. It's just kind of like aesthetic to me at this point, and temperature a little bit. But you know, the gaming OC is about a mid-range version of this 5080, so that's why I like to test with it. And to be honest, that's the only one I could find in stock. So anyway, everybody kind of knows that pain. So let's take a look at, say you're on a 1440p panel intending to upgrade to 4K one day, but you just want to see kind of how it behaves at 1440p. Fully native pixels at 1440 on epic settings. So we left ray tracing on initially, and that was still a nice playable experience. Okay, so now we're at 1440p, and this is ray tracing off, and everything is set to all native pixels, no upscaling. If we did turn that ray tracing on, though, let's see what this does. So ray tracing on at native resolution still gives you a 60 FPS experience on this title with no upscaling needed and no frame generation needed. So if you did want to run it all natural here, you could do that at 1440p. Our post-compute latency, though, is at 64 milliseconds. If you're on a mouse and keyboard, you might want a little bit better than that. So you can come down here and turn on your DLSS and run it at quality. That's going to help that PCL because you're running a native background of a much lower resolution, so you're going to be able to produce more real frames. And there you go, you're at 44 FPS. All right, so this is all real frames. We're not, to clarify, we're not doing any multi-frame or frame generation at the moment. But you know, anytime you can get your real frames higher, your PCL is going to go down, your response time is going to get better. All right, so quality DLSS. And now we're at 94 FPS. So if you did want to run some frame generation on the 4K segment, the frame generation actually improved the PCL. So let's turn that on. So frame generation is on, and that's going to give us 163 FPS with a PCL of 26 milliseconds. That is so good. I mean, this is not a game that necessarily needs a certain low PCL, but that's just kind of indicative of how well this title is running on this hardware. So about 153, 152 FPS here. We haven't checked out multi-frame generation. You could come in here and do multi-frame generation and get that up even further. Now, it might affect our PCL negatively. It might change a little bit. Yeah, so it went up to about 30. Still nothing. I mean, still absolutely fine. You're at 230 FPS here at 1440p. This card, you know, it's a very, very high performer at 1440p. Is it overkill? Probably, but you're good for years to come. But say you are at 1440p and you did want to go up to 4K, this video hopefully will answer that question of, you know, once you do make that jump up to 4K, what kind of performance can you expect? Because a lot of people don't have the money to buy a monitor and a card at the exact same time. And I've been there. I totally get it. So if you wanted to snap up the card, say you found one at MSRP, and you didn't have the monitor yet, those are a little bit more widely available. So you could go ahead and get your card, kind of expect this at 1440, and then upgrade later on down the road to a 4K panel and be good to go. I mean, you know, so that's kind of what this video is intending to answer. If you like this kind of stuff, please consider subscribing, especially if you're new here. We would love to have you in part of our little club on the internet, testing out games and different GPUs. If you are not new here and you've come back, thank you so much for coming back and continue to support me. I really appreciate all the comments. If you got a question, please let me know. I try my best to research the question and get back to you, or if I know, just get back to you right away. I'm pretty active on there, so if you do want to interact with me in any way, please drop a comment, and we'll be able to have a little discussion if you want to. With all that said, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Peace.